Hey, it's Tammy Dunnett, your communication coach and guide to creating a psychologically safe workplace so that you can ditch the drama, confidently handle difficult conversations, and create better relationships. Now, if you're currently working in a workplace where there's some maybe toxic gossiping happening, creating some negative energy around you, and you're looking to resolve that, you are in the right place because I'm going to give you some simple strategies that you can use today. I'm going to be sharing with you, first of all, we're going to define what gossiping is, how to identify toxic gossiping, and then I'm going to give you some actionable step-by-step strategies that you can implement. Now, as a communication coach, I have helped many women just like you who are in the workplace and struggling underneath the negative effects of chronic conflict or workplace bullying, and I've helped them be able to regain their reputation, put their careers back on track, and get back to living that peaceful, productive life that they knew that they could. And if you're one of those women that's currently struggling in a situation or a workplace that's really challenging you and you might need some more personalized support, more than I can give you in these video tutorials, at the end of this video, I'll share with you how you can connect with me and we can talk about personalized one-to-one or group coaching. In this video, I will also be talking about some of the content that comes in my free download, the 10 Safe Conversational Starters, and I'll put a link in the description box for you so that you can grab your own copy. Now let's get started into changing your workplace. So first of all, what is gossip? Simply stated, it's when people talk about others when they're not present. And it comes quite naturally to all of us. In fact, it's a way in which we create connection, pass on information, and share ideas. I mean, consider these statements. Hey, did you hear that Julia was promoted? That's not so bad, is it? Or, can you believe that John likes The Bachelor? I would have never imagined that. Or how about, did you see how the boss handled the situation? When it comes to gossip, not all of it is bad. And in fact, according to some research that was done in 2019 and published in the Social, Psychological, and Personality Science, we spend on average 52 minutes a day gossiping. And it's not always bad. And in fact, sometimes it's quite boring. But there's a lot of good that can come from gossiping. But in this video, we're talking about what happens when gossiping goes wrong, when it becomes toxic. Now, toxic gossiping is a form of workplace harassment and bullying, and I want to say that again. Toxic gossip is a form of harassment and bullying. Its intention is to degrade, offend, humiliate, isolate another person or group of people. So what do we do about it? Well, the first step is probably not intuitive, but it's an important step to getting to resolution, and that is we need to take a step back. We need to understand why somebody might be engaging in toxic gossip. And the reason we want to do that is because it will put you in a better position to address it coming up. So let's talk about some of those things that might be motivating your toxic gossiper in your workplace. Fundamentally, there is a lack in their life. They're lacking connection, they're lacking safety, they're lacking trust, they're lacking self-esteem, and the list can go on. But what it boils down to is three key things. There's a fear that they feel. So this is our fight or flight response to a threat. There is a belonging that they crave. They want to fit in. Or there is a power that they feel that they need. So let's look at those individually. So let's talk about fear first. In today's workplace, there's a lot of fear. We don't know if we have a job tomorrow. We don't know if we're going to be off for 2 weeks because of COVID. We don't know if we can trust our coworkers to have our back and support us because they're overwhelmed. And if you've ever been around an environment where they do a lot of closed door meetings, you've probably felt this. You're wondering, are they talking about me? What's coming down the pipeline next? And what the heck's going on? How come no one's talking to us? That uncertainty creates a lot of fear. And when we're afraid, we want to put distance between us and the threat. And so for this instance, someone who is fearful may engage in toxic gossiping. Now, the second issue is that there's a lack of intimacy. There's a lack of feeling like they belong and they're connected to a greater purpose or a greater group. We all want to fit in and feel like we have a place. And so when I gossip with you and I share something with you and I show that I can be vulnerable and I can trust you, well then you and I, we're close and tight, right? That's kind of the belief behind that gossiping, is that I want to feel like I have a connection and a safe spot and a person here at work. So I'm going to talk with you about others and then you can talk to me about others and we have this safety. The belief is that this exclusive action and this confiding in a single person creates the illusion that our relationship is deep. But research shows that it may actually have the opposite effect. And then the third one is power. You've likely heard that information is power, and I want to consider these two gossips. So here's the first one. Hey, Jerry received the president's nomination for his service. I think that's amazing. Did you hear about it? Number 2. Oh my God, did you hear about Jane? She really messed up today. She let a patient fall and she tried to cover it up. Now, which one do you think is going to travel faster? Let me know in the comments below. If you guess the patient falling on the ground, you're right. That positive stuff is like snail mail. It's going to take 2 weeks before it gets where it's going, but negative stuff is fast. Now, when I have all that information and I choose to share it, it's because I'm trying to influence another, to bring them into my army, to show that I trust them. So this power that I have, this information that I have, is all about me handpicking you to be my ally. That's exclusive, right? So if I get to decide whom I share it with, what I share, when I share, and the spin in which I send that information out into the universe, I have a lot of power. Now, in the chat box below, I want to also hear from you on this because I've talked about fear, I've talked about belonging and power, and I can definitely tell you all 3 of those have been motivating factors for me in my own life. And I mean, I gossip, we all do it. Research shows 52 minutes a day. But there are times when I'm gossiping and I know I recognize it, that the reason I'm doing it is to put someone else down and to elevate myself. Because there's a fear, there's a lack of self-esteem, or there's a loss of control and I'm trying to regain my power. And so I recognize that I still participate in that as well at times, and being able to shift out of it is one of the critical factors. But today we're talking about how do you stop it if you hear it. So let's get into that next. Now there's a couple of ways in which toxic gossiping might be coming to your attention. The first is you are a receiver, meaning you've just sat down for lunch, somebody comes into the lunchroom and they go, hey, did you hear about Jane? You are receiving toxic gossip. So how are we going to deal with that? And the second way it might come to you is if you are the target of toxic gossip and somehow it has come back to you through another party. So if you are the receiver of toxic gossip, you're sitting there minding your own business, somebody starts to come in and talk about Jane, you have an obligation to shut it down. So here's the example. Hey, did you hear about Jane today? She let a patient fall and oh my God, she tried to cover it up. Now, you don't have to put your hand out. You can simply just say, you know what? I'm not comfortable talking about this when she's not here. Have you talked to her about it? That's communicating you have a boundary. You're going to respect that you weren't there to talk about it, and you're going to redirect them to the person who they should be talking to. Now, what if you're the target of gossip and somebody has come to you to say, hey, John's been talking about you in the lunchroom? Well, that can get us really angry and frustrated because we don't know why, we don't know when, we don't know how long, and we'll have this real big flush of emotion and we want to march over there and have a conversation with John. But I'm going to urge you to just pause for a moment and consider these steps. The first step you need to do is thank them for bringing it to your attention and share the strategy I just shared with you with them so that the next time John comes to them, they can also say, hey John, I'm not comfortable talking about this. I think you need to go and talk to whomever he's talking about. Share this strategy so that they can also be part of stopping toxic gossiping. The second thing you need to do is get details. Now listen, when someone comes to you and says, hey, they're talking about you in the lunchroom, we automatically assume that they are telling us because they are concerned about us and our reputation. That's not always the case. Sometimes if you have a bully, they're planting a seed. And so we don't want to go running off right away and confront John. We need to ask details. What did you hear? When did this happen? Who else was there? And once you feel you have enough information to go back to John and talk about, we're going to put into place a plan. So now that we've gathered our details, the second thing we need to do is wait. We need to calm down. We need to not act on that first flush of feeling that's come through us. Let those feelings subside so we can get back into our thinking brain. And now we're going to get into our plan. And the plan is, what is my intention? What is my goal and my outcome when I talk to John? I need to know where I'm going because it will then help me with my conversation. Once you know your intention, then we're going to approach John and ask him or invite him to a conversation. And I'll give you a couple of sample statements for that. Sample number 1. Hey John, I've heard some gossip that I'd like to clear up with you. Do you have time to talk? This is going to be intriguing for your gossiper because they're going to be all like, oh, people are talking about me? Yeah, let's figure this out. At which time you will then share, well, someone came to me and shared that you were gossiping about me, and I don't really like third-hand information, so I'd just rather figure out what's going on with us. Second sample. Hey John, someone shared with me that you've been talking about me in the lunchroom, and I don't like third-hand information, so I'm wondering if maybe you and I can just talk so I can understand what's going on. Do you have time? So what does this approach do for you? Well, first it communicates that you have a process, that you have a preference that people come and talk to you face to face. Second, it communicates that you have respect for them enough so that you're willing to bring them to the table to clear the air. Third, it communicates your values for lowest level communication. And all of this will help to decrease the threat when you approach them and open up a safe environment to explore. Now, speaking of exploring, this is where we get curious in the next step, is we're going to be asking open-ended questions. Such like, I'm just hoping I can understand this whole situation. Can you share with me from your perspective what's going on? And let them talk and just listen. When you feel that you have all the information you need, that's when you'll be able to share safely. Sometimes it's good to ask permission. Is it okay if I share with you how I felt when I heard this? And then you can share the impact, how you're feeling, and collectively the next step is to work towards a resolution. So go ahead and use these tips and come back and write to me in the comments below and let me know how it goes. I am excited to see how you're able to now step in, lean into these difficult conversations with confidence and with some phrases that will help you create a safe place for exploration. If this video has been helpful, if you think that this is something others need to hear, like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This is all stuff that will help YouTube know that this is important information and others must hear it in order to help be part of the solution and not the problem. Now, I did promise that if you were someone who is struggling and you've been struggling for a while and maybe you need some more personalized support, that I would share with you how you can connect with me. My website, relationshiprevolution.ca, is focused and committed to helping people change their circumstances one conversation at a time. I will put the link in the description box below, but you can head on over there if you're interested, and you'll see that there is a coaching program where you can submit to apply to work with me. Now, there's no obligation when you apply, so if you would like to have a free consult with me where we get on the phone or on Zoom, and we're going to get really clear on 3 things. 1 is, what's your current situation? 2 is, what would you like to happen? And 3 is, what's the gap? What's holding you back and keeping you from achieving your vision? We're going to get really clear on that. And at the end of the call with me, we're going to have a plan for you to go forward. Whether it's with me or not doesn't matter. There's no obligation. But this is for people who are serious about making a change in their workplace, serious about making a change in their relationships, and they want to lead their life. So if that's you, if you are a woman in the workplace who is struggling and you would like to get your career back on track, reclaim your reputation, and get back to living that peaceful, productive life that you know you can, just reach out to me. I'll put a link in the description box for you as well. And remember, you are only one conversation away.